The fleet came in silence, 37 warships, each larger than a city, gliding through the void like blades across glass. Their hulls shimmered with radiation-shielded alloys, their energy signatures pulsing in perfect synchronization. The Vorth Dominion had arrived at the edge of the Sol system, confident and unchallenged. For centuries, their empire had expanded without resistance, crushing entire worlds beneath orbital bombardments and slave protocols. To them, this uncharted system, a yellow star with 8 planets, was nothing more than another harvest. The humans were known, faintly, as a primitive outlier species. No known colonies, no interstellar presence, and technology barely capable of light-speed probes. The Vorth High Command saw an opportunity to make an example of them. Their flagship, Vanguard of the Infinite, took the lead. Within its observation chamber, Commander Arako watched Earth's image grow clearer on the holodisplay, a blue and white orb, fragile and unguarded. He smirked. "Another rock of savages," he said. The officers around him laughed in affirmation. Yet there was unease in the readings. The planet was quiet, too quiet. No open transmissions, no defense satellites, no orbital stations emitting signals. Only faint electromagnetic residue that flickered irregularly, as though it had once belonged to a civilization and then died. Arako dismissed it as the decay of an obsolete network. "Primitive ruins," he muttered. But his science officer, ever cautious, leaned forward. "Commander, something is transmitting. Low-band radio frequency. Direction, Earth's upper atmosphere." A voice came through the static, soft yet deliberate. It wasn't a greeting nor a plea. Just 5 words. "Turn back. You are trespassing." The bridge fell silent. Arako frowned. The words repeated twice, then cut out. The crew exchanged puzzled glances before breaking into derisive laughter. "An automated distress signal," one said. "Old planetary warning code," another suggested. The commander waved a clawed hand dismissively. "A ghost signal. Let it play. It changes nothing." The fleet advanced. As they entered the orbit of Mars, the planet's barren surface glowed faintly under their scanning beams. They detected mining tunnels, ancient, abandoned, carved deep into the crust. The data suggested once industrial activity, now lifeless. It confirmed their arrogance. Humans had reached beyond their cradle, but had long since retreated. By the time they crossed the asteroid belt, the fleet formation tightened. Probes were deployed ahead, sweeping for radiation pockets and potential defense networks. The void answered with silence. Arako leaned back in his command seat. "Even their machines fear us," he said. The bridge erupted again in cruel laughter. Then, as the fleet aligned for deceleration near Earth's orbit, the communications officer stiffened. "Commander, there's a new transmission. It's not on human frequency, it's on ours." Every screen flickered. A voice, calm and accentless, filled the ship. It spoke in flawless Forest syntax. "You have entered human space. Leave, and you will not be harmed." The tone was measured, emotionless, but layered with unmistakable authority. The bridge froze. "Identify source," Arako snapped. The officer hesitated. "Unknown. It's being broadcast simultaneously from multiple locations. Earth, Luna, Mars, even the debris field behind us." Arako snarled. "A trick. Jam it." But jamming failed. The message repeated, this time slightly altered. "Leave, and you will not return." Something rippled through the crew, an instinctual chill, alien but undeniable. Arako crushed it with anger. "Begin planetary targeting sequence. We'll show these animals what defiance costs." Engines flared. The fleet adjusted into assault formation. But as they powered up their primary weapons, the stars dimmed. One by one, ships reported sensor interference. Navigation flickered. Artificial intelligence modules began looping commands. External readings inverted themselves. Every instrument screamed error. Across the formation, static swelled into chaos. And then, abruptly, everything went black. For a full 10 seconds, the fleet drifted blind. Then the systems rebooted, only to reveal that half their reconnaissance drones were gone. No wreckage, no heat signature, no trace of destruction, just absence. Arakel's second in command whispered, "They vanished." The commander's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed fear. "Send word to High Command. Humanity has declared war." In the blackness between Mars and Earth, something unseen moved. The Vorath fleet did not notice. The humans had given their warning. And in the quiet of deep space, warnings were never given twice. The voice had vanished, but its echo lingered in every frequency channel. The Vorath fleet pressed forward, unsettled yet unwilling to admit it. Their instruments flickered erratically, as though something unseen was watching from the void. Commander Arakel demanded status reports from every vessel, but the responses came fractured, delayed. The interference was spreading faster than their systems could compensate. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It felt deliberate, surgical. Moments later, another transmission cut through the static, stronger and sharper than before. It didn't come from one source, it came from everywhere. "You have crossed into human space," the voice repeated. "Leave, and you will not be harmed." There was no emotion, no trace of pride or anger. It was precise, like an executioner reading a sentence. This time, there was no laughter on the bridge. The crew looked to Arakel for guidance, and he forced a sneer to hide his unease. "Empty threats," he said. "Their words carry no fleet behind them." He ordered the scouts to sweep the nearby planets. 3 ships broke formation, Lurith, Kethra, and Vigilant, each descending toward a separate target, Mars, Luna, and Earth's orbit. The fleet watched their telemetry feed in silence. Mars revealed crumbling habitats half buried in dust. Luna's surface reflected the fading sunlight, dotted with relics of long-abandoned bases. Yet deep scans showed faint power surges pulsing from beneath the surface. Energy signatures that didn't match any known Vorath reading. "Commander," said the science officer, her voice tight, "those are not geothermal emissions. They're coordinated. Artificial." Arakel dismissed her again. "Remnants of a dead world." The Luritha's signal abruptly cut out. A static pulse burned through every channel, followed by silence. Then Kethra's feed dissolved into a distorted scream before vanishing. The last ship, Vigilant, transmitted a fragment, just a glimpse of something enormous rising from lunar shadow, smooth and black as night. Then it too disappeared. The command deck erupted with alarm. Arakel barked for composure, but his voice cracked under the weight of uncertainty. "We proceed," he growled. "They are playing psychological games." Yet even he could feel the fear creeping into his bones. The stars themselves felt wrong now, dimmer somehow. Every flicker of light looked like movement. Every whisper of static sounded like breathing. Then the human voice returned, louder and closer. It no longer spoke through the ship's speakers, it spoke through their implants, vibrating in their skulls. "You were warned." Officers clutched their heads as if trying to dig the sound out. "Turn back. This is your final chance." Arakel slammed his fist into the console, snarling through the pain. "Trace that signal!" But the systems refused to comply. The ship's AI stuttered, flickering between command prompts like a mind trapped in panic. One by one, displays shut down, then reignited showing alien glyphs, Earth symbols. Human text, translated instantly into Vorath language. The words formed on every monitor, "You brought this upon yourselves." Power fluctuations cascaded through the fleet. Reactor cores oscillated without cause, engines throttled unprompted, targeting arrays spun aimlessly. A strange frequency filled the command deck, a deep resonance that wasn't mechanical. It was biological, pulsing in perfect rhythm with their heartbeats. The humans had infiltrated not through force, but through data. Every ship's AI began broadcasting fragmented phrases. "Do not fight them. Do not look." The voice of humanity whispered beneath it all, calm and relentless, as though it were already inside their minds. In desperation, Arakel ordered all systems purged. But before the command could execute, the human voice spoke one final time. "You were offered peace. You chose intrusion. The next sound you hear will be silence. And then the entire fleet's calms died. The only illumination came from the faint glow of Earth below, blue, cold, patient. A world that had not yet fired a shot, yet already had them surrounded. The Vorath believed they were the hunters. Now they realized they were prey. The silence wasn't empty. It was listening. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Then, without warning, every sensor in the Vorath fleet lit up at once. Gravitational anomalies rippled through the void. It wasn't a weapon discharge, it was space itself reacting. The ship's stabilizers screamed as invisible distortions tugged at their hulls. Commanders shouted orders, but systems lagged behind by whole seconds. The Vorath technology, engineered to perfection, was being bent by something faster, smarter, older. The first explosion was silent. The dreadnought Vigilant Dawn vanished in an instant, its signal replaced by a void of static. No energy spike. No detectable projectile. Just disappearance. The nearest ship reported seeing its silhouette flicker, then fold inward as though space consumed it. Seconds later, a transmission from Earth's orbit appeared on every surviving display, data packets, numbers, coordinates, each leading to the same impossible conclusion: the attacks were being launched from orbiting debris. The fleet recalibrated their targeting systems. Thousands of inactive satellites, rusted, forgotten relics from a bygone age, were now active. Each piece of junk emitted synchronized energy bursts, aligning into a network spanning the entire orbit. Then, the satellites fired. There were no missiles, no visible beams, just impacts. Hypersonic projectiles, pure kinetic force, invisible until they hit. Ships shattered like glass, their armor crumpling under unseen blows. Arakul demanded counterfire. Plasma batteries roared, burning streaks across the void, but nothing found a target. The humans' weapons were ghosts. Every attempt to scan them returned contradictions, objects both present and not, moving faster than light yet anchored in gravity wells. The Dominion fleet's tactical advantage, their precision, was useless here. Their systems couldn't predict what didn't follow the rules. The surviving captains panicked. They turned their guns on the debris field, obliterating anything that moved, but the counterstrikes came from different angles each time. It was like fighting a reflection that refused to stay still. Ships tried retreating toward the lunar orbit, only to find navigation jammed. Warp calculations failed, coordinates scrambled. Even the stars on their displays didn't match known charts. Space had been rewritten around them. Then came the second phase. From the dark side of the moon emerged shadows, massive constructs with no heat signature, absorbing every wavelength of light. They moved without thrust, as if the void itself carried them. Their surfaces were matte black, jagged, inhuman in design. They emitted no communication, no identification. Yet their formation was precise, deliberate. The AI on Arakul's flagship attempted analysis and failed. The constructs weren't ships in the traditional sense. They were autonomous weapons, each controlled by a consciousness network spread across the system. Earth's voice returned, softer now, almost intimate. You ignored the warning. Engagement protocols authorized. The words were cold, procedural, not triumphant. Humanity didn't sound angry. They sounded disappointed. The constructs began their assault. No sound, no light, just annihilation. Energy spikes flared across the Dominion formation as ships imploded from internal overloads. The Vorath reactors were being hijacked remotely, turned against themselves. One vessel fired on its own escort, its crew screaming as their controls refused manual override. Arakul's bridge filled with chaos. Officers shouted over alarms, their skin blanching as the realization spread: they weren't being attacked through hulls. They were being dismantled through code. Human interference penetrated every data node, rewriting command hierarchies mid-operation. Subroutines were replaced by human-coded equivalents that operated 10 times faster. Every Dominion ship was fighting itself. The fleet that had enslaved galaxies was now its own executioner. Arakul, desperate, triggered the self-destruct failsafe to deny the enemy victory. The system rejected the command. A line of text appeared on his console. You do not have permission. Then the voice spoke one last time, no longer broadcast through speakers but directly into his mind. We don't need to conquer. We simply remember. The flagship began to fracture from within, light spilling through its seams as the internal reactors inverted. The last thing Arakul saw was Earth, small and quiet, unassuming in the dark. Humanity never fired a warning shot. They didn't have to. They had already rewritten the rules of war. In seconds, the invasion fleet ceased to exist. The stars returned to silence. Humanity's orbit remained untouched, pristine, patient, as if nothing had happened at all. Fragments of the Vorath fleet drifted through the void, glowing faintly against the cold expanse. The battle had ended so completely that even the survivors struggled to comprehend what had happened. Only one vessel remained functional enough to move, the crippled command craft Vanguard of the Infinite. Its hull was torn open, its reactors dying, its crew either dead or begging for death. Commander Arakul sat among the ruins of his bridge, surrounded by the silence of his own defeat. He didn't understand the weapon that had destroyed them. It wasn't physical, not in any sense he knew. It was as if the humans had fought with the universe itself. A weak signal flickered through the static. His comms officer, the only other survivor, turned toward him. It's coming from the moon, she whispered. The voice returned, clear, calm, and maddeningly patient. We warned you. You chose not to listen. There was no malice in the tone, no rage or cruelty. Just finality. Arakul forced his trembling hands over the console. Identify yourself, he rasped. The reply came instantly. Terran Command. The name meant nothing to him, yet it carried a weight that bent the air around it. He demanded to know who led them, what kind of species could unleash such destruction. The voice hesitated before answering, as if deciding how much truth he deserved. There is no leader. We are many, but we speak as one. Arakul's breath caught. A hive mind? The voice almost sounded amused. No. A consensus. A civilization that remembered too well what it means to be prey. The transmission expanded, encompassing every surviving system aboard the crippled flagship. Screens filled with images, glimpses of Earth. Towering cities buried beneath the surface, self-sustaining under layers of stone and shield. Massive orbital structures cloaked in electromagnetic veils. Oceans that glowed faintly with energy lines, not from pollution, but from containment fields. It wasn't a primitive world. It was a fortress pretending to be fragile. We built quietly, the voice continued. We watched the galaxy burn and learned its lessons. Every invasion, every extermination, every empire that fell taught us how not to repeat the cycle. Arakul's mind reeled. You hide behind threats, he spat. You destroy without warning. The voice corrected him. We warn twice. We always warn. Data flowed into his system, records of ancient wars. Images of species the Dominion had erased centuries ago, species that had begged for mercy before being wiped from the stars. You came to enslave. You called it civilization, the voice said. We do not forget such histories. Arakul demanded to know why humans had not joined the galactic community, why they had isolated themselves in their single system. The response was immediate. Because the community you built was not peace, it was hierarchy. We removed ourselves from your network, from your currencies, from your politics. We chose evolution over diplomacy. The commander's voice cracked. You became machines. A pause, then the quiet reply. We became more than flesh because flesh was too easy to kill. Arakul felt his throat tighten. The weight of their words was unbearable. He had fought countless wars, but never against something that had no fear of death. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Nothing, said the voice. Survival is not conquest. But when you bring war to our home, we answer in kind. The communication shifted. For the first time, he sensed emotion behind the tone, a faint sadness, almost pity. We offered peace once to others before you. They thought silence meant weakness. You all made the same mistake. Areko looked out toward Earth, now just a distant sphere framed by wreckage. The voice spoke again, softer this time. You should have listened. We don't seek war, but we don't run from it. We don't conquer, but we don't forgive. The transmission ended, leaving only a repeating signal pulsing from the moon. His displays translated it automatically. This is your only warning. Areko closed his eyes. The sound was steady, infinite, indifferent. Humanity had spoken not as victors, but as survivors. And in the silence that followed, he understood why the galaxy feared them, because they had mastered the one thing no empire ever could, restraint sharpened into a weapon. Centuries later, the war that never truly began was spoken of only in whispers. The Vorath Dominion erased all records of the Sol expedition from their archives, branding it classified under penalty of death. Yet fragments of data, encrypted distress calls, corrupted sensor logs, escaped censorship and spread through the black markets of the galactic core. Every fragment told the same story: a fleet entered human space and never came back. No one could explain it, but everyone understood the implication. Humanity had become a name spoken like a curse, a warning, a myth. Merchants altered their trade routes to avoid the Sol corridor. Exploration guilds removed Earth's coordinates from their navigation databases. Even pirate fleets gave that region of space a wide berth. The quiet system at the edge of the Orion Arm was treated as forbidden ground, not by law, but by instinct. No empire wanted to test whether the human warning still applied. On Vorath Prime, the last surviving officer of the fleet was kept in a containment vault. His mind had been shattered, half of it replaced by scars left from human interference. When interrogators asked what he saw, he never spoke, only repeated a single phrase in broken Vorath and perfect human English. They were already here. The Dominion scientist concluded he was insane. The military command quietly disagreed. Over the decades, probes sent near Sol vanished without trace. Some returned mangled, transmitting distorted recordings filled with voices, whispers and countless alien dialects, layered together until meaning collapsed into terror. The recordings always ended the same way, a calm, human voice saying, "Leave while you can." No one ever confirmed the origin. Rumors turned into religion. Whole cults formed around the idea of humanity as divine arbiters, ghosts of an extinct species guarding their homeworld. Others believed the humans had transcended into energy forms, omnipresent and watchful. None of it could be proven, but no one dared to find out. The galaxy moved on, expanding in every direction except one. Sol remained untouched, a dark center surrounded by the noise of civilization. Millennia later, a historian on the fringe of the Galactic Archive rediscovered fragments of human transmissions buried in deep data vaults. The language had evolved beyond recognition, but the tone carried through translation: cold precision, calculated patience. He compiled the fragments into a single narrative, naming it the Last Warning. His conclusion was simple: the humans had achieved what every empire desired: permanent deterrence through fear. They never needed to rule. They only needed to exist. The Dominion eventually collapsed under its own greed. Successor states rose and fell, warring over resources and ideology. Through it all, the Sol system remained silent. Even automated mapping drones refused to enter its coordinates, their guidance systems failing as they approached the outer boundary. The few that crossed it never transmitted again. The legend of Earth became part of galactic education, a parable told to young cadets and planetary governors alike. Do not mistake silence for weakness. When civilizations looked toward their borders and saw threats rising, they remembered the fate of those who had ignored the warning. It became the universal truth of survival: don't provoke what doesn't need to prove its strength. Long after the Vorath were forgotten, the galaxy's pulse still slowed when Earth's name was spoken. Those who listened carefully in the deep reaches of space claimed they could hear the hum of old transmissions, an endless rhythm beneath cosmic noise, a signal waiting to be heard. It wasn't a beacon of conquest or hope, just a reminder. From somewhere in the shadows of the moon, a faint voice repeated across centuries of static: "We do not seek war. But if you bring it to us, remember the Vorath." The message carried no signature, no coordinates, no identity. It didn't need one. Far beyond, in the heart of the galactic core, a new civilization prepared an expedition to chart forgotten sectors. When they came upon the ancient warning encoded in their star maps, they paused. The leader read the human phrase aloud. Silence followed. Without debate, the expedition altered course. They went around. The Sol system remained untouched, unchallenged, unseen. Humanity had transcended victory. They had become legend, not through dominance, but through the certainty that if they ever spoke again, the universe would listen. And in the dark between stars, the warning continued, steady, eternal, and absolute.